Hi, welcome to week 3. You're going to see a series of short lectures this time. They're still quizzes, but really the focus of your work in this unit is writing a paper. And in that paper, I'm going to ask you to use all of the constructions that we've seen over the past 2 weeks, as well as observing the grammatical rules that I'm going to outline in these lectures. So there's a lot going on in this paper. It's going to go fast. If we were in a longer session, you'd have a couple of tries at this. But as it is, we're in a writing intensive course. This is the intense writing part. You've done some writing in your other assignments, but this is the big set. So without further ado, let's start with the first lecture, and it's about, as you see, marking sentence boundaries. Again, this is a short lecture, and I'm just introducing the concepts. The places where you practice these concepts are going to be in the quizzes and in your writing itself. There's also going to be things to do on the wiki, but they're a little bit separate. You'll see all the instructions are written up on the week 3 page. It's the first item on the week 3 page, and I have also sent out an email, but some of you are having trouble with email, I think. Anyway, let's get started. So we're talking about clause boundaries. We've been discussing these throughout the course of the semester, but here I'm just setting up some terminology and summarizing some things that we've seen before. So for the purposes of this class, you should know by now that what I'm calling a sentence is the material between a capital letter and a period. So it's a purely typographic way of diagnosing what a sentence is in some ways, but if you're writing, if you read something that another writer has written, there's a sort of feeling that they have about where to put these things. So my job is to basically work within this space of this feeling and figuring out, your job is to figure out when that feeling gets communicated into a period, when it gets communicated into a semicolon, into a colon, that kind of thing. Hope that makes sense. It was a little cosmic. All right, so we already know that apart from this typographical set of requirements, every sentence must also contain at least one independent clause. No problem, everyone knows what an independent clause is now. And we know that sentences may contain more than one independent clause. We saw this in week 1, but we didn't spend a lot of time with it, so we're revisiting that idea now. So when you have 2 independent clauses in the same sentence, there are special punctuation requirements. Basically, there are only certain ways that you can combine them without combining them. You have a grammatical error, a punctuation error, and I'm going to talk about those kind of errors in the second lecture. So you've had a lot of practice already with coordinating conjunctions. Everyone should be able to recite automatically, as if it was born in your brain, the list of coordinating conjunctions. So I'm not going to talk about them here. But if you want a different way, something that's not so sort of laden with meaning of joining together two independent clauses, colons and semicolons can be useful. So I have a passage here. It's taken from Alain de Botton's book, The Art of Travel. Beautiful book, just gorgeous. Anyway, so we're going to work with this passage, and that's all we're doing in this lecture. It's a short one. So we see the first sentence, and above Slough is a plane that a few hours ago was flying over the Caspian Sea. Slough is a place in London near the airport. So note that the whole sentence starts with an and. You may have teachers who in the past said not to do this. I'm going to tell you it's fine as long as you have an independent clause, but it is subject to personal preference. So if you have a teacher who hates it, don't do it. Simple as that. And that happens a lot with these grammatical rules, that some things are hard and fast grammatical rules and other things are to do with preference. So because you're in the position of being a student, you know, it pays for you to pay attention to what your teachers like and don't like. When you're writing for yourself or writing for an employer, you know, as long as this is grammatical, so as long as what you're doing is grammatical, there shouldn't be a problem. So we've taken care of the first sentence. It's an independent clause. Let's take a look at the second sentence. Slough, the Caspian, the plain is a symbol of worldliness, carrying within itself a trace of all the lands it has crossed. Its eternal mobility offers an imaginative counterweight to feelings of stagnation and confinement. So we've got two pieces of punctuation that I want you to pay attention to, the colon and the semicolon. I've cheated a bit with this example. I thought it was so poetic that we're actually looking at the colon separating something that isn't an independent clause and something that is. But I think you'll forgive me. I'll explain that more in the next slide. But the second part is extremely juicy with its semicolon. So let's move on to the next slide. We'll talk about the colon first. So as we said in the first week, I think, and it says this in your textbook too, so nothing here should be surprising at this point. The colon introduces an element that illustrates or elaborates upon the idea in the clause before it. You can use you can do it with just a noun phrase like you have here, but you can also use it between two independent clauses. And now you're so good at figuring out what an independent clause is or not that it's okay, right? That I didn't use exactly the right kind of example. Anyway, so we see Slough the Caspian. We could change that into the plane flies from Slough to the Caspian, and then put the colon, and then the plane is a symbol of worldliness. So this second thing, the thing after the colon, that's an independent clause. We see the tensed verb is, we see the subject, the plane, no problem, got what we want. But the important thing to note here is the colon has to have this meaning as well. It illustrates or elaborates upon the idea in the clause before it. Without that meaning relationship, the colon isn't used right. Okay, let's move on. So finally, we're at the semicolon, and we see the definition in the first bullet point. A semicolon, or semicolon, just a spelling difference to do with the hyphen, connects two independent clauses that are related but somewhat loosely. So we see the sentence below. The plane is a symbol of worldliness, carrying within itself a trace of all the lands it has crossed, semicolon. Its eternal mobility offers an imaginative counterweight to feelings of stagnation and confinement. So we see that there's some grammatical connections here. The plane is the subject of the first sentence, the first independent clause, I should say, and the it's that comes straight after the semicolon is a pronoun that refers back to the plane. As such, it's tying them together, tying these two sentences together because we know they're about the same thing. What else do we know? We know that they're both independent clauses. We saw before the plane is, the plane subject is tensed verb, no problem. Let's look at the second one. The tensed verb, which we always find first, would be offers, right? And the subject is a three-word subject. It's eternal mobility. Remember how we define the subject. It's all the words that together tell you what the sentence is about. So we've got the it's that connects this clause to the plane, and then we've got the description, the particular aspect of the plane that we're interested in, and that is, as Alain de Botton says, it's eternal mobility. So once again, we're spending a lot of time looking at the beginning of clauses to check that they're independent or dependent or whatever. And here we've got a classic case of two independent clauses joined together by a semicolon, whose meaning is related, though both the sentences independently cover different ideas. So I hope that makes sense. So read up on these kinds of punctuation in your text. You've probably read them already, but it's on page 36. I don't think it's on the course documents page. It's on the syllabus and textbook page. I should have changed that, sorry. And quiz number 7 will give you some work, some practice identifying places, making some choices. So what I'll say about quiz number 7 is that unlike the others, there's not going to be necessarily one right answer. I'm going to give you two independent clauses. You're going to make choices about how to join them together. And it's up to you. Just think about the meaning relationships that we've talked about, and try to have some variety. I'm going to give you 5 sentences. Don't do them all with semicolons. That's boring, and it may not be the most appropriate. So do something that entertains yourself a little bit. All right? Good luck. See you for lecture 2. Bye.